Hello and welcome to the International Journal of Clinical Practice Editor's Choice interview. Today we'll be hearing from Professor Paul Valency, Professor of Nutrition and a diabetologist at the Jean Verdier Hospital at Paris North University. We'll be discussing an article he's co-authored in the March issue of the journal on biphasic insulin analog therapy for patients with type 2 diabetes. And before we start, I'd like to thank Novo Nordisk for supporting this video cast with an educational grant. So welcome to you, Professor Valency. First of all, can you tell me the conclusion of the study?
The most important conclusions of the IMPROVE study are threefold. The first one is that NovoMix 30, an analog, a biphasic insulin analog, is very efficient as to blood glucose control. That's the first point. The second one is that the rate of hypoglycemic events, in particular major hypoglycemic events, decreases during the study. And the third point is that patients expressed an improvement in their satisfaction about their blood glucose control, and also they felt less tired and they worried less about their diabetic complications.
Well, this was an observational study, not a random controlled trial, in which there were about 58,000 people taking part. You had three subgroups of patients, didn't you?
We had three subpopulations, we can say that. In every case there were type 2 diabetic patients. Some of them were coming from no previous anti-diabetic therapy. Some others were coming from oral anti-diabetic treatments, and the third subgroup were coming from previous insulin therapy. But the most important group was in fact this one coming from oral anti-diabetic treatment.
Why was that?
Because it's usually the case, I can say worldwide, most of diabetic patients are first treated by lifestyle advice, and secondarily by oral anti-diabetic drugs, and finally by insulin therapy. But indeed, when we see as a figure of these patients, in particular coming from no insulin therapy, they were poorly controlled. So what we were expecting was an improvement, a marked decrease in HbA1c levels when using insulin, in particular NovoMix 30.
And that's what you found?
We found indeed a wonderful improvement in glycemic control as expressed by HbA1c levels. The mean decrease in HbA1c in the overall diabetic populations was about 2.1%. At baseline they were very poorly controlled. Mean HbA1c was 9.4%. So a marked improvement in HbA1c, which resulted from a decrease in fasting blood glucose and also, as expected, from a decrease in postprandial blood glucose.
And did each subgroup show improvement in the three factors that you mentioned?
We found an improvement in the overall population. That was the first analysis. And also we looked for the improvement in every subgroup, and it was the case. Every subgroup improved dramatically their HbA1c levels.
So what is it about this sort of insulin that gives such good control?
So what we tested was NovoMix 30, which is a premix formulation of an insulin analog. This premix formulation comprises 30% rapid-acting soluble aspart insulin analog and 70% intermediate-acting protaminated aspart insulin analog. So we have one part which is devoted to improve, to decrease fasting blood glucose, which is the intermediate-acting fraction, and the rapid-acting fraction, which acts to decrease postprandial increment.
Now, the study drew on 12 countries, patients in Asia, in Europe, Canada, the Gulf states. Why is it so important to have such a mixture of countries taking part?
Of course, we can expect the same kind of results. Whatever this insulin is tested or proposed to our patients. But in most controlled clinical trial, we have such a study performed only in Western countries, for instance. Other studies performed only in Asia, for instance. And here we have performed a study in several continents, in a lot of countries, and a huge number of diabetic patients. We had included more than 58,000 type 2 diabetic patients. All of them were insulin requiring. And we wanted to confirm in this observational setting what has been seen in randomized controlled trials performed in such or such continent. So we were willing, when building this study, we were willing to confirm and extend what was seen from randomized controlled trials. And we wanted to confirm it in several countries, several continents. And that was the case. We can see the same improvement, the same satisfaction expressed by the patients, the same decrease in the rate of hypos, whatever the patients are living.